Hello and welcome to the Ulti Show. Here we are at the World Championships of Beach Ultimate 2017. We're here in Royan, France, and we've got all kinds of fun subjects to speak to you about today. I'm Kaz, I'm with the WFDF board. I'm also Deputy Chair of the Sport for All and Development Commission.
And I'm Brian, I'm the Chair of the WFDF Ultimate Committee. And tonight we're coming to you from one of the busiest places at this tournament, the VC merchandise tent. We've got a lot of some of the merchandise that they're selling here behind us. And I can tell you this place, the stuff's coming off the racks, as always, as players are in here, excited to buy some merchandise. As always, we said last time in episode 1, we want this show to be interactive as possible. You can use on Twitter the hashtag #TheUltiShow. Send in your comments or questions or vote on our polls. You can also drop comments into the WFDF YouTube channel, and we'll get to those as much as we can. Earlier today, we had our first poll, and we had people respond to it. We asked you how many divisions you thought, the viewers thought that the USA would win gold in. 52% so far are saying they're going to win gold in 6 or 7 of the divisions, and over 80% of people responding saying they're going to win in 4 or more. So that's certainly following what we said earlier. A
lot of medals, isn't it? So if there are about 21 medals to win overall, that means there's a good 14 medals still up for grabs for other countries too, right? Which is obviously good news for everyone else out there too.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be divvying those up later in the week.
All right, so on this show tonight, we're going to talk about a few things. First of all, some of the medical issues that have been occurring so far this week. We're also going to speak to Adriana Withers, who is the CEO of VC Ultimate, the lady that's running this tent we're in right now. But first, let's have a little recap of some of today's games. What have been the highlights, lowlights that you've seen, Brian?
Well, it's certainly a ton of highlights out there on the field. Some of the interesting things that are starting to work out in the schedule. We said to look out for some of those teams that maybe don't place at the top of the table for grass, but have a good beach tradition, and we're certainly seeing that. So we've got Spain, who beat Canada twice today, once in men's, once in women's. They're 3-0 in women's, 2-0 in men's. Huge. We talked about Philippines, 3-0 in men's. Russia is 2-0 in mixed, and 3-0 in women's. And Belgium, and this is a surprise, is one we didn't talk about, 3-0 in men's right now. So those countries, we don't usually see them at the top.
Yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it?
On the other side of things, though, you know, some people win, some people lose.
Yeah.
I think a country most people would expect to see at the top would be Japan. Right. They're not here with a huge squad, and right now they're 1-8, and certainly don't look like they're in contention for the top of the table or any medals later on. So it's still a little bit early, but certainly by tomorrow and then by Wednesday, we'll have a really clear picture of the playoffs and how things are shaping up.
Well, look, I wonder if Japan's suffering a little bit with the heat here at the moment. I mean, it's topped out at 38 degrees today, right? I mean, this is pretty unbearable weather for people even walking around, let alone running around on that sand. And that brings us to the medical issues, actually. So the doctors have been saying they've actually seen at least 40 players who've had burns and blisters on the bottom of their feet because of how hot the sand is right now. Absolutely unbelievable. And they've also given some warnings to people to make sure everyone, not just players, but anyone watching, should be drinking at least 3 litres of water every day. And if you're playing a game, you should drink an additional 3 litres on top of that for every game that they're playing, right? So that's a hell of a lot of water.
It's a lot of water, but you've got to hydrate. It's brutal out there. Even us just walking around, everybody's looking for shade, everybody's looking for water all the time. I can't even imagine playing in this, but kudos to all the athletes who have trained hard and are out there right now running around in what is really, really hot
temperatures. They're doing amazing stuff. So let's talk then now to Adriana Withers, who's with us here.
Here she is.
VC Ultimate. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me.
So you were hearing us just then chatting about the heat. You know, in different competitions, there's different weather conditions. Does that affect what you guys end up selling here in your merchandising tent?
It definitely does. It's a consideration we take when we're planning for any event, but it's a bit of a crapshoot because we could have cold, windy, rainy weather, or we could have weather like this, and I can tell you that we'll have a lot of jackets and hoodies left over at the end of the weekend, but remember, you go home to cold climates. But it's a consideration. It's just, you can't control the weather, so we make the best of it.
Yeah. So some people have been asking me about sand socks. I know without sand socks, it can be quite hard to play in this heat. Do you guys usually stock a lot of them?
So we have in the past at beach events. We as a company have a 100% quality guarantee. Something happens with one of our apparel pieces, we take it back or we fix it, no questions asked. The problem with sand socks is that they often blow out. So if you blow out your cleats, or if you go through a pair of cleats more than once a year, the chance of you blowing out a pair of sand socks are very high. And so the chance of us having a lot of returns at the end of the weekend makes it not a great business decision to do so. But it's definitely the most asked question we've got, so it's something we'll be developing for the next World Beach Championships.
Fantastic. So you guys may have noticed that we're wearing the same t-shirt, as is Brian. It says here, the future is female. So this is a wonderful VC Ultimate t-shirt, right? And that brings us into talking about women's games, because I know that you've been involved with the Women's Commission, which is a WFDF Women's Commission. How do you think we can get more women out there playing? I mean, it's really important that this becomes really a very equal mixed gender game, I think, ultimately.
Absolutely, and I think the openness and the support behind women's development in Ultimate makes one of the things that makes Ultimate really special. I think it's a case of looking at how participation of female players around the world is going, and looking what's being done in countries that have a higher participation rates, and sharing those stories about how that happened and how that development came to be, and making sure that countries that have tons of varying issues of getting women out to play are looking at what works in different countries, and even if that couldn't work in their country, what little bit of that program could work. Really proactively, really positively thinking what little aspect from different development programs around the world could work in these developing nations, where you have different cultural issues, different issues amongst familial rights or education rights, whatever it happens to be. There is something that can work for everybody. We need to focus on that.
Fantastic. And if you guys actually have comments specifically about the women's game or about making it more gender equal in Ultimate, do let us know, hashtag the Ulti Show, just to remind you there. So, Adriana, you also do a lot of development work widely in the games. I understand there's a disc project you're currently working on.
There is. It's in partnership with Discraft. We're calling it Disc for Development. And what the goal is to get as many discs, either affordably or completely free, to as many players as possible. So this week we have 500 discs to give away. So if you have a project
500 is great.
that you would like to pitch to us, it's not a yes or no. We're going to say yes to everybody. The rule is that the discs have to go back to your home country and hopefully be used in a really great development initiative, however big, however small it is. Fantastic. Again, and just having discs in people's hands will ignite that fire of Ultimate within them. So if you have ideas, please let us know. We're going to start launching that tomorrow. And we would love to see women-specific initiatives in that mix.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for chatting with us.
Thank you for having me.
So we're going to start talking a little bit about Rivalry soon, Brian. I spoke actually earlier to Malaysia team players today. It's one of the new teams here at the championships for the first time. And they had some good answers, actually. I was asking Ben from Malaysia, I was saying, who's your biggest rival? And he said, you know what, we'll take on anyone. So they have some really good spirit there. They're going to be rivals to anyone who wants to take them.
And we love those new countries that are coming out. They're just starting to hit the scene, and they're building those rivalries. They're starting to come to events. Obviously, this is the first WFDF event for Malaysia. There's some countries that have been to a lot, and they've created some rivalries. So we see some big rivalries out there. Certainly Australia, Great Britain is a rivalry. Those two teams always bring their A game when they're playing each other, raise it up. Canada and Japan have had a good rivalry for the last little while. And you get some geographic ones as well. Obviously, you have Portugal and Spain have a good rivalry. Singapore and Philippines, two huge teams in terms of beach ultimate. And every time they get on the field, they want to beat each other. And we want to hear what you guys have to say about rivalries. So we're going to run our second poll right after we post this about rivalries, which you think are the biggest. And please send in comments as well. Tell us other rivalries in Ultimate that you think are big.
Absolutely. So hashtag the Ulti Show, also hashtag WCBU, that's World Championships of Beach Ultimate, WCBU 2017. And just to remind everyone, there's some great live streaming happening at the moment, a bunch of games you guys can watch for free online. You can see that at live.wcbu2017.org. And there's also FanSeat, right? So people can sign up to FanSeat and they can watch all the games on pitch 2 and 3. And in fact, they're giving away the first month free in that subscription. So fantastic deal for people that want to be able to watch a bunch of great games happening at the moment.
I signed up before I came here, and my family's watching games on FanSeat as we speak.
Fantastic. Well, that's it for the end of the Ulti Show tonight. It's been great having you with us. Hope to see you again soon, right?
You bet. We're here on the beach all week. This has been the Ulti Show.